If you dare, go to that grave, but only if you believe you'll return.
This is my name.
You can't escape unless you face your fears. This grave has been waiting for you.
It all started on an ordinary school day, until I heard the story. Whispers spread among my classmates, saying only the brave dared to visit that place at night. A child's grave. I couldn't help but be curious, even though fear began to creep in after hearing one chilling detail. The gravestone has your own name on it, they said. And those who visited claimed they could hear that name echo in their dreams that night. That night, as I lay in bed, my friend's words echoed in my head. It has your own name on it. The phrase kept ringing in my mind like a haunting reminder. My curiosity was eating away at me, even as a growing fear tugged at me. Still, when I woke up the next morning, I made up my mind. I was going to see that grave for myself. Surely this was just a story meant to scare kids, right? For the next few days, everything at school seemed normal, but the thought of going to the grave never left my mind. It was as if the grave was calling me. Each time the thought crossed my mind, my heart beat a little faster with both excitement and dread. Some of my friends acted as if they hadn't heard of the story, while others insisted it was just a legend to scare us. Yet a part of me whispered that there was truth to it. When night came, I decided to leave without telling anyone and head to the cemetery. Even the wind sounded different that night. Under the moonlight, the gravestones glowed faintly, casting an eerie silence over the area. The sound of my own footsteps was enough to make my heart race faster. My eyes scanned the surroundings, searching for a clue, hoping to find that specific grave, though I had no idea which one it was. It felt like the cemetery itself was pulling me into an endless mystery. And then, I realized I was standing right in front of it. I lifted my gaze to the gravestone and my blood ran cold. There, engraved on a cold slab of stone, was my own name. It felt as if this grave had been waiting for me all along. I reached out, touching the stone's surface with trembling fingers. The cold, hard texture beneath my fingers seemed to seep into me, chilling me to the bone. Seeing my name, there was the strangest feeling in the world. How was this possible? Just then, a note caught my eye on the grave. With shaking hands, I leaned closer to read it. This time, you won't leave. My eyes widened, and my breath caught in my throat. Was this gravestone with my own name on it some kind of warning about my fate? It felt as if the grave was calling to me, pulling me in. Terrified, I stumbled back a few steps. I turned around, and in the wind's eerie whispers, I heard a faint voice. That night when I got home, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that gravestone and the note. Facing my own name on a grave had stirred a deep fear in me. It felt as if this grave had marked my life. Days passed, but my fear didn't fade. Every night, that grave returned in my dreams. Each time I drifted off to sleep, the same scene replayed. I was standing in front of that gravestone, staring at my own name. And every time, that cursed phrase echoed in my mind. This time, you won't leave. The unease inside me kept growing. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but reliving that scene every night became unbearable. It was as if the grave was drawing me to it, claiming me for itself. One night, I decided the only way to end this nightmare was to go back to the cemetery and confront the grave once more. It felt like I'd never find peace until I returned. I walked the same path with the same feeling of dread. When I reached the grave, I wanted to back away, but I was determined. There it was, my name carved into the stone. And then I heard a sound from beneath the ground. It was like someone was calling to me from the depths. Was it a warning or an invitation? My hands trembled and my heart raced. This wasn't just a sound one could imagine coming from a grave. I glanced over my shoulder and noticed shapeless shadows in the dark. They were moving towards me as if trying to surround me. Could this really be happening? Or was it all in my head? I wanted to run, but my feet felt rooted to the spot. I was trapped at the grave. I could feel the weight of the grave bearing down on me like a curse. Just then, I noticed something carved on the back of the gravestone. It was a message scratched faintly into the stone. Face your fears, or stay here forever. Reading those words brought a sudden realization. The grave wasn't a curse. It was a symbol of my fears. That's why it bore my name. Instead of running, I had to face it. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and decided to confront my fear. When I opened my eyes, I was standing alone in the cemetery's darkness. The shadows had disappeared, and silence filled the air. I had finally faced my fear and broken its hold over me. I took a step back, looking once more at the gravestone. The words seemed to fade, and the eerie feeling vanished as if whatever curse it held had been lifted. As I walked home, a strange sense of relief washed over me. But I knew this night had taught me a powerful lesson. Even our deepest fears lose their power when we face them. That grave, with my own name on it, had symbolized my worst fears. But now, they no longer held any power over me.